Okay, so that's what slide number 4. So so questions about the comprehensive plan. So now I think is the time where we'll transition into those emails that we received and go through those kind of line item by line item for the council to consider. I know at the last study session, we had something similar where we took an email and went through to see how council wanted to proceed. So we'll do the same here in the order that we have gotten them today. Councilmember Hopper first. Wish I could see some stuff on the screen here. There we go. Okay, so this is was sent to all council members. Our response. Here, our responses are orange.
Thank you in advance for a really quick response.
Yeah. Really quick response.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Vicky was very helpful. There's a lot of transportation questions here. She was the lion's share of that. Very appreciative of our public works colleagues. LOS transportation plan, as discussed last time and given recent comments submitted by Eric Peterson. So
I think that was good. We had an email from him yesterday or this morning. So I think he's referencing a good ordinance from Bellingham, which I understand we'll be tackling after that transportation plan, translating that to an ordinance. At which point we can be looking to Bellingham for good language.
For the code.
For the code.
For EMC,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I am good there
now. Okay. Height building max and employment district. So this is in the downtown sub-area plan between Warren Pacific and south of 5th Street. My understanding is the Navy ultimately did not end up requesting a maximum height in this area due to security concerns. So our conversations with the Navy were related to the zones that were changing. So in the multi-use zone, we needed to find common ground with the Navy. Really, because it's the right thing to do, and 2, because PSRC has policy requirement for it. So we, the height was changing in that zone. The Navy did not have a problem with that revised 80-foot height limit, but the employment district zone, that height wasn't proposed to change. So it was 80 feet and it's proposed to change, to stay the same at 80 feet. So with that explanation, did you have questions?
Yeah, I think so. Because I remember talking to, I believe it was Commander Hale at some point. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we're not setting the height because the Navy's request. Because my understanding was obviously the line of sight concerns, but that my understanding is that can be mitigated when the building's built and the operations can control access to the rooftop, and that was sufficient. So I wanted to make sure we weren't making the decision to limit the height based on the Navy's input. If that's just our, planning commission and your professional expertise, thinking 80 is appropriate there.
And it wasn't, that height limitation wasn't based off Navy request.
Okay.
It was what's allowed in all of their centers is that 80-foot height limit, so that our downtown should at least meet that 80-foot height limit. We do still have a market-driven height in one of the downtown core, 80-foot otherwise.
I guess that's my only kind of lingering question is when you look at the map, and I don't know if it's possible to pull it up just so folks see.
Yeah.
Since we'll talk about downtown sub-area plan, it's that if we pass this, then we'll have 80 feet limit. Here we go.
We all also have this in our email, if you want to zoom in.
Oh, good. So that employment district there is what we're talking about. So that'll be 80-foot maximum, but the surrounding downtown core, I don't know if it's blue or purple, my messed up eyes. But that's market, that's no height limit. So it's a little odd to go from the mixed use above it, which was, can't remember the height was. No, it's lower than 80.
In the previous zones where the mixed use
Going
aggregated?
from like north to south.
north to south, this is,
Oh, yeah.
not sure out here, but here it's 80. The big pink zone
Okay.
would be 80, and then the market driven,
Mhm.
and then 80.
80
I
again.
believe the green here on waterfront, I believe is 175.
175.
Right. So downtown waterfront, downtown core, and employment district weren't aren't proposed to change for their maximum height. The really big change was this aggregated multi-use zone
Mhm.
in order to encourage development that's closest to our largest employer, transit, etc. If you're considering, just if you're considering a market-driven height for all of downtown, that would take additional review from the planning commission and environmental review. So just
Did we
if
have
that's
that
what
for a
the-
while?
80's enough, isn't it?
Did we have market rate for a bigger area? Did we
Yeah,
realize?
market forces.
Yeah, I think it's, people, I thought we brought some of it down to 80 because of
Yeah, I think it was
community
120 for a while, wasn't it?
there was no limit, or I thought in a bigger area, but the
So-
real issue here is like, anything above sort of 5 stories is really like gonna be a concrete, well, you can do like a pedestal, so like a 3-story concrete and 5 stories stick built, and that's your kind of 80-foot limit. But really anything above 5 stick built, wood built, stories, you're talking about really kind of like a high rise.
Yeah.
So the market would have to significantly change over here for that to even be an issue. But like a lot of things, where there's no limit, allows somebody to maybe make one that's 81 feet or something like that because of the way, something is there, so.
The downtown core in the previous comp plan or the current zoning, is that market still?
Yes.
Okay, so it's staying market,
Right.
Okay.
Pretty good.
I think so.
All right.
My
It's a
concern,
little odd, but it's fine.
my concern on this is that usually places like sort of step up from the shore. Yeah, and because instead of creating a potentially 175-foot wall between the people and the water.
That's why shoreline access is required with any development, and it would really follow that development pattern of the Marina Square, 400, Harborside. They're all kind of naturally that height because, as Councilmember Goodenough pointed out, there's kind of an economic sense at some point to where you need to pay for high-rise concrete and steel construction.
Which waterfront views could help with, but also it could give more people access to waterfront. But
Which would be.
I do think it's somewhat unlikely. I mean, it could happen.
But if you do develop along the shoreline, you would be required to add that pedestrian promenade connection. Right now, it goes from the marina up to, I believe, around Fifth Street. Any development that's added in the future would need to provide a connection with that as a condition of development. So people do have additional access to the shoreline.
So even if they took a chunk in the middle,
Even if they took a chunk in the middle. So
kind of
and-
like bike lanes that aren't attached.
Yeah.
to anything.
Just so. When the harbor side and the 400 went in, they had connections. And it was that way for a long time. And then when the Marina Square development went in, they've all connected. So you can really go from the ferry all the way to Fifth Street along the water. Sure.
So it's not just a connection along the waterfront either. You
Oh, yeah.
provide a connection to the right of way.
Yeah.
So it's not just going to be an island unto itself. You have that individual shoreline access.
Do have another comment. What I was saying, we basically move on, because I have another comment about views blocking.
I'm done.
I agree with you.
Okay, so these comments here, discussing bringing back down market-driven height, that's answered.
Yes.
Sorry, Jeff, I didn't read that.
No, yeah.
Okay, changes we could make regarding view preservation and or addressing the concerns of residents regarding view obstruction, in particular with regards to areas where we are proposing increased heights. So And that goes on to, can we include language referring to implementation of slope height determination or step backs to mitigate view blockage, as happened with certain buildings recently in the net. So Manette isn't an area where we propose for a height increase. Currently, the comprehensive plan has view preservation noted for public, but not for private view. So maintain street ends for public access and views. Make sure public parks or public land maintain those views. But that otherwise, we have here large setback requirements and low maximum building heights are identified by the Department of Commerce as being potential barriers to the creation of additional housing. So as we're considering increasing housing stock, any area that may be additionally regulating would mean less housing units, something for the city council to consider. So really, this is up to the council. This could be but that's the information provided by staff.
No, I appreciate it. And this is coming from, I mean, I remember a lot of people's new buildings go up. And I think one example was Denise's district. There was, that was the building. That was
The Spike building.
yeah, you know, it was
Yeah.
apartment building built right in front of another apartment building. So people had, you know, beautiful water views, and then all of a sudden another building right in front, which also knows, you know, somewhat inevitable if you have a developable parcel in front of you. But then, yeah, Manette, I've heard a lot recently, a couple houses that went right to the maximum height, but were, you know, pretty blocking the views. I've seen it firsthand. It's like, oh yeah, that was, if I lived there, I'd be upset too. I get it. And so I was just trying to find if other cities had addressed this, and it looked like a few had implemented some language to, I don't know full details, but to say, all right, instead of setting the height from either the mid slope of a slope, we'll set it from the bottom. We'll take into account of the design review board to implement elements of a roof sloping in the right direction that doesn't block the view as much.
It was
It's different elements I wanted to bring on the table.
It was either Kitsap County or Port Orchard when I was reviewing that notice of proposed land use action that required like SEPA level notification anytime a view might be blocked. So like the whole community could
Like
comment.
a public view or a private view?
Like the situation he's describing in the net.
So that would be a private view.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how we could do that because like I used to own a house that had an incredibly beautiful view and some guy went out of his way to build garage houses that blocked everybody's views. And there's nothing like you don't pay supposedly more taxes if you have a better view than somebody who doesn't. So I'm not sure how
I'm just saying it was in their,
you can regulate.
it was in their code that you had to have public notification. That's all I got.
Typically, actually reserve the view covenant, and people purchase those from their neighbors
Yeah.
for that, and that's typically how that's handled.
Yeah.
You
So
have their rights.
As Gunnar mentioned, so I have some experience with this. I have some property in Tacoma. And historically, the neighborhood had covenants that restricted homes to be single level. And they had the measurements and all that stuff. And the city of Tacoma actually helped out and created a view preservation district. And it was based on those covenants. So here you have in Bremerton, situation where historically, correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett or Andrea, where we don't go out and protect private views. We haven't had that in the past, and now you're asking us to do that in the future. One, it will create value for people that have views, and it will possibly negate value people that have property they want to develop. And I don't think I want to be in that business. My personal opinion has always been if you want to make sure no one blocks your view by a waterfront or whatever the view is. If not, you're in danger. And as Gunnar stated, I've seen examples where people have actually purchased view easements of their down properties and they pay for that. And rightly so, because that's a private property and it's a transaction. I don't think we want to get in that business. Giving Yeah, so the city of University Place, they have the same position, right, that the city of Bremerton has, in my opinion, and they don't protect views. But again, the city of Tacoma had that view overlay district because the residents wanted it, but it's something they had all these years and it was built into their development. So I don't
Well,
think I
like
want to
right
open
now,
that up.
we do say street ends
That's fine.
are public access, but they're not.
Mhm.
Like Garrett saw it firsthand when he came to
Yeah.
visit my district, where one neighbor came out and said, there's no way you
Right.
can allow people.
And so that's
on the street.
that's a public policy the city of Lakewood is currently addressing with street ends. So there's several lakes, Gravelly Lake and others, American Lake, I think is another one, where there's these street ends and historically the neighbors have taken it over. And basically they've done an eminent domain on the city and the city said, you can't do that. And by the way, we can't give away public. So now they're dedicating funds to opening up the street ends. And so maybe that's what the city should be looking at. So I think our efforts should be on,
That sounds like a great idea.
but we don't have no money.
Yeah.
But our efforts should be on protecting views and access to the public through the street ends, which are the public right of way, and we can't give those away anyway. Oh,
Which could be developed through private development. If private development occurs near street, it could develop that for further access to. So that's an opportunity if the city doesn't have fun adding to.
are we good, Jeff?
Yeah, I just kind of want to honor, I just feel like there were a lot of public comments about this and I can have a solution. I just realized I was reading through everything. It was like, I'm searching, it was like, we don't really address it. So, I might have something I'll talk to people on, but we've at least considered what any options are out there.
To me, like, it is the opposite. So we take a situation like we were talking about in Denise's district. Like, so that one building was there. And I don't know, let's say 5 stories, great views because there was like an empty lot there for a long time. But now the owner of that, how can we tell them, even though the person adjacent to you can build a 5-story building,
Yeah.
you can't build it, or you can't build it at all? Like,
We do that all the time. Like,
you know,
we do. I mean, we change policy based on, like, if the state changes its policy.
oh, sure,
Understood.
sure. So you could have a place where maybe you built a 1-story home and now somebody can come in front of you and build a 3-story home. That's progress. That's because we're trying to infill. That's because the motivation there is to make affordable housing to more housing stock. And so that's a greater good thing to me. Whereas protecting somebody's view is, so then let's say it's your land that you want to build on. If I say you can't because he needs to be able to see something, that's economically unfair to you. So,
I'm just saying stuff like the way people complain, for example, when they were forced to have indoor plumbing.
And it's not just buildings and Denise has her hand up. So 1 second. So it's also vegetation. And do you really want to go down that road protecting? Oh my goodness. Do you think parking's an issue? Wait until you get into enforcing people's views. Denise, go ahead.
Yeah, I have had several discussions with people in my district, including on Halverson, that are concerned that somebody could build an apartment building or whatever. And I concur with Michael. It's a greater good. We really have to put individual needs at a lesser priority than the population's needs. And you all know I love a view. And when you buy a house, you do pay more. At least in the state of California, you paid a lot more for an ocean view. I don't know whether that comes through in the appraisal or not, but again, times change. That apartment building in my district could have purchased that property in front of them if they really wanted to hold on to that view and hope that nothing gets built on the other side of Wheaton. So, views, anything with nature, is, I think it's more a matter of public rights to views than it is individual. And I say that, of course, visiting Hawaii right now with an ocean view. But yeah, good intentions.
I don't this isn't something I think we should dive into. I'm just saying that people really are accustomed to having zoning changes happen. That's all I'm saying. But for me, we've been pursuing that street end thing in every budget for the past 15 years. It's one of our top priorities. And have we added one in the last 2 decades? No. 3 decades?
I've been here for 12 years, and I'm not in public works that would develop street ends, but not to my knowledge.
Okay. So that I think is of importance, the public having access